Carl? Yeah, okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sangeeta Kondala, Education Chair, and Madhavi, Education Co-Chair. On behalf of SV Temple Executive Committee, Board of Directors, and the management, I would like to welcome you all for Guruguha to celebrate unique 250th year celebration of Muthuswami Dikshitar, who is one of the trinity of Carnatic music. So, Dr. Kanix is here to speak about Muthuswami Dikshitar, and he is like exceptional scholar, composer, and visionary. Dr. Kanix is a renowned Muthuswami Dikshitar scholar, a music composer, and the author of Anubhuti, the first ever comprehensive book on Muthuswami Dikshitar published during the 250th year of the great composer's birth. His pioneering work bridges music, history, and spirituality, bringing alive the timeless connection between Dikshitar's compositions and the sacred geography of India. This afternoon, Dr. Kanix will present an interactive lecture demonstration on Muthuswami Dikshitar and the sacred geography of India, followed by a screening of his award-winning documentary film, Colonial Interlude, which explores the Nottuswara Sahityas of Dikshitar. We are truly privileged to have with us one of the most knowledgeable and inspiring voices in the world of Indian classical music and culture. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Kanix Kanikeshwaran.
So, namaskaram everyone, namaste, and wish you all a very good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. So this is, just to get an idea, how many in the audience have actually heard of Dikshitar, Muthuswami Dikshitar? Okay. I'm not able to see much, but I see it's most of the hands have gone up. How many of you have listened to his music in detail? Some of you. And how many of you know the background behind his music or the life history or anything? Okay, just a couple. And how many of you know a lot about Dikshitar? Okay, so if you notice, I kept on bringing down the number of hands. But anyway, what we hope today is there's something very special about Dikshitar. First of all, if I mention the name Tyagaraja, most people in the audience would know quite a lot because you have the Tyagaraja Aradhanas happening every year, right? Even in Pittsburgh, probably been happening for almost 50 years now. So Tyagaraja is probably the most celebrated music composer from South India. And on the banks of the river Kaveri, in a town called Thiruvayyar, his Aradhana is celebrated every year, and that gets replicated in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and a lot of other places, and probably on this very stage. But for Dikshitar, the amount of awareness is not much. Now, Dikshitar was also a composer who was born in 1775 in the temple town of Tiruvarur. And he composed a lot of music. The difference between Dikshitar and other composers is that all his music was written in the language Sanskrit. And it also relates to the sacred geography of Tamil Nadu, the temples that he visited, placed in a very pan-Indian context. And what do we mean by that? I'll explain all that soon after we watch this movie. This movie is about 37 minutes long. It's about a less known chapter of Dikshitar's life. One of the things that Dikshitar did during his lifetime was he lived during the era of colonization, and there were a lot of Western tunes that arrived on the Indian soil. And rather than shunning them and throwing them away as alien tunes, he actually wrote lyrics in Sanskrit to these tunes. And the result is a set of like 39 compositions which are based on Western tunes and Sanskrit lyrics. It's actually a mind-blowing thing, as you will see in the documentary film. So I invite you to watch this film first. It's about 37 minutes long. And then I'll come back for a whole set of questions and answers and the journey through the sacred geography of India. We have two wonderful young children here, Kirtana and Aryaman, who learned a Mangalam on Dikshitar that have composed in conjunction with the book Anubhuti that is authored on the occasion of the 250th year of his birth. We'll talk about the book as well, and then open the floor up for questions. So I invite you to all be engaged. Please watch the film. Please note down any questions you may have, and feel free to just bombard me with questions. It would be a lovely, engaging two-way conversations if you all step forward and even occupy the front rows to have a dialogue together after the movie is over. So thank you again for being here. Let's screen the movie. And once I start the movie, I request Carl to dim the lights on the stage so that yeah, you can completely dim the lights on the stage. I'm going to just start the movie.
I stand here in that historic part of Madras which was visited by Emperor Maharaja Chhatrapati Shivaji more than 300 years ago. I remember standing at this very same spot 50 years ago as a child, listening to the very same music that I heard this morning, watching the very same dance of Shiva Nataraja. I remember wondering where this, as well as countless other tunes played by my grandmother just 2 doors away, came from. The search for the origins of this tune and many similar tunes leads us on a journey, a fascinating journey. Through the world of Carnatic music and colonial history. This is Chennai, a modern metropolis, the undeclared capital of Carnatic music, or the art music of southern India. Carnatic music is an ancient tradition with roots that reach far back to the first millennium. It has a sound theoretical basis and a vast body of compositions. The face of Carnatic music is the kacheri, or the concert. There is a tremendous difference between concerts in the classical Western and Indian traditions. While the Western concerts feature multi-layered polyphonic creations tied to specific keys and instruments and compositions, The staple of kacheris is largely a set of kritis in the Carnatic music tradition, created by Vaggayakaras, who create the text and the melodic contour at the same time. A kriti reflects the Vaggayakara's mastery over the raga and their proficiency in the lyrical paradigm, complete with prosodical command and a deft authority over subject matter. Kritis in Carnatic music are for the most part rooted in the Hindu tradition, largely depicting the mood of bhakti or devotion, or in some cases the Sringara or romance. Central to kacheris are the kritis written by three composers, Shyama Shastri, Tyagaraja, and Muthuswami Dikshitar. The most popular of these composers is Saint Tyagaraja, whose compositions, largely in the Telugu language, get performed by a congregation of devout musicians at his samadhi in Tiruvayyare each year. Although there is no record of any significant interaction between the three Vaggayakaras, it is this iconic portrait of the three composers that has come to represent the de facto face of Carnatic music. A portrait that has resulted in the collective reference to this trio of composers as the trinity of Carnatic music. Muthuswami Dikshitar is the youngest of the trinity. More than 430 compositions are attributed to Dikshitar. About 90% of these compositions are kritis in the Carnatic music tradition, composed in various ragas in praise of deities enshrined in temples all over Tamil Nadu and elsewhere. However, about 10% of these compositions are not based on Indian ragas, and they are based on Western music. Tunes such as jigs, reels, marches, and dances that had come with the British East India Company during the time of Dikshitar. This set of compositions is referred to as the Notuswara Sahityas. This is the tune of the British national anthem, God Save the King, from the 17th century. It later gave rise to the song My Country 'Tis of Thee in the United States in the hands of Pastor Samuel Francis Smith. In the hands of Dikshitar, this tune appeared in its new avatar as Santatam Pahimam. Santatam Pahimam is just the tip of the iceberg of the story. Not one, not a handful, but 39 such compositions in Sanskrit, written on top of colonial tunes, came into being in the hands of Dikshitar back in the early 1700s and early 1800s, representing probably the first such musical interaction across cultures. How did it all begin? Muthuswami Dikshitar was born in the temple town of Tiruvarur in 1775. Tiruvarur is rich in music traditions stretching back to the first millennium CE. The young Dikshitar and his brothers were trained by their father, Ramaswamy Dikshitar, himself a scholar and a composer. The time period was the late 1700s, where the colonization of India was unstoppable. The East India Company needed locals fluent in English and native languages Tamil and Telugu to support their trade operations. Such polyglots, referred to as the Dvibhashis or Dubashis, filled the role. Manali Muthu Krishna Mudaliyar and his son Venkata Krishna Mudaliyar were Dubashis, who were art patrons. Impressed with the musical caliber of the Dikshitar family, they invited the clan to spend time in residence at Manali, where they lived. When the Dikshitar family lived in Manali, roughly in the 1780s, the young Dikshitar would make trips to Fort St. George. It was here that he had a chance to listen to tunes played by the marching bands of the East India Company. The years that the Dikshitar family spent in Manali were to have a profound influence on his later musical output.
Dikshitar's younger brother, Muthuswami Dikshitar, also had a chance to listen to the same music. He was fascinated by the sound of the violin and he wanted to play Indian music on it. So he learned to play the instrument and introduced it to the world of Carnatic music. The result is that the violin is an indispensable accompaniment in all concerts of Carnatic music today.
Post his stay in Manali, Dikshitar accompanied his spiritual guru, Chidambaranatha Yogi, to Banaras, where he spent 5 years on the banks of the Ganga. The Hanuman Ghat is where he is believed to have resided. Kashi or Banaras is referred to as the Eternal City. It is a place where some of the greatest influencers in India have lived, all the way from Adi Shankara through Bhaskara Raya, one of the foremost authorities in the field of Sri Vidya Tantra. These years spent in northern India in the 1790s had an influence on the music of Dikshitar. He is the only composer from southern India with a repertoire almost entirely in the pan-Indian Sanskrit language. Tradition holds that Dikshitar was guided by his guru to proceed to Tiruttani, a pilgrimage center on top of a hill, 100 miles northwest of Manali. Dikshitar engaged himself in meditation in Tiruttani when a yogi dropped a lump of sugar in his mouth, soon after which he created his first kriti, Sri Nathadi Guruguha.
Every composition of Dikshitar contains his signature Guruguha in some context or the other. The phrase Guruguha refers to the Guru in the cave of the heart, or to the deity Skanda, the son of Shiva and Parvati, or to the composer Dikshitar himself.
Thus began the nearly 40-year period of Dikshitar's life as a Vaggeyakara that he spent traveling from place to place, all the way from Tiruttani in the northern periphery of Tamil Nadu to Ettayyapuram in the deep south, visiting temples and singing their praises in kritis, reflecting the ragas of India. The southern state of Tamil Nadu boasts of a great heritage in terms of temples. The musical wealth created by Dikshitar through the medium of the kriti celebrates the temple legacy of Tamil Nadu. All of Dikshitar's compositions are in praise of deities enshrined in temples. They are all in the Sanskrit language. They feature encyclopedic descriptions of the places visited. They pack information such as Puranas or ancient narratives, Sthala Puranas or local narratives, iconographic details, festivals, traditions, and more. The textual material is rich and often has the name of the raga encoded within the text. The often catchy melodic contour perfectly complements the text. This is Kanchipuram, the city of temples, with a legacy extending all the way back to the period of the Pallava kings of the first millennium CE. Dikshitar spent a few years of his life here, perhaps in the very early 1800s. The Soma Skanda manifestation of Shiva, featuring Shiva, Uma, and Skanda, is seen in the rear wall of the sancta of Shiva temples all over the Pallava kingdom. The sprawling Ekamreshwara temple complex is one of India's largest. There's documentary evidence of this temple's fame even in the 6th century.
Chintaya ma kanda moola kandam Cheta Shri Soma Skandam.
The composition Chintayama Kandamula is regarded as one of the Panchabhuta Kritis, describing this temple and Shiva's manifestation as one of the 5 bhutas or material elements, earth, the other 4 being water, air, space, and fire. It is interesting to note that Dikshitar uses 2 different vehicles to express his devotion to Ekamreshwara. The intense composition in the classical Bhairavi Raga on one hand, and a simple waltz on a colonial tune in praise of Somaskanda enshrined here.
Somaskandam Swanandakandam Kamakshisham Kalyanavesham.
Dikshitar has created many Notuswara Sahityas in praise of Ekamreshwara.
Kamranayam nityamaham bhaje Kamadishachora vritimaham tyaje Pankajakara Shambho Deva Pasupate Shankar Vara Pankajakara Vinuta Shambho Swamin Sakalarvati Pate Sada
Located in Kanchipuram is the grand temple dedicated to Kamakshi, the only shrine dedicated to the mother goddess Devi in the entire town of Kanchipuram. As with the Ekamreshwara temple, Dikshitar has created a significant set of Notuswara Sahityas in praise of Kamakshi.
Kamakshi mam pahi Kamakshi mam pahi Kamakshi mam pahi.
It was in Kanchipuram that Dikshitar spent time with Upanishad Brahmam, an exponent of the non-dualist Advaita philosophy, which gets reflected in the lyrics of many of his compositions. What is non-duality? It is a recognition of that one reality that is everything. Everything that exists is sacred. This reality is shielded by the cover or sheath of illusion, Maya. It is this Maya that stands in the way of realization of one's true nature. The concept of Maya is called out in this composition in the Raga Tarangini and is also very sweetly brought out in this Notuswara Sahityam in praise of Kamakshi.
Kamakshi Kanchipuri
पल्लव पद कोदंड.
Dikshitar set to tune the Ramashtapadi in praise of Rama at the behest of Upanishad Brahmam. This work is not available today. However, Dikshitar has several compositions in praise of Rama. He also created many Notuswara Sahitya compositions in praise of Rama. The tune of this composition, Dasharathe, is based on a plank steed written by O. Carolan in Ireland in praise of his patron.
How can that be Sanskrit? That's Plagstefani Power, which was written by Turlock O'Carolan, who lived from 1670 to 1738. This is O'Carolan, the life and times of O'Carolan, and this is his picture. I just didn't know how could this Plagstefani Power have gotten to India, and especially to the area of Madras. It's the power of oral transmission of songs, because the tune had to have been written at least 100 years before Dikshitar.
Ramachandram Rajivaksham Shyamalangam Shashvatakirtan Ramachandram Rajivaksham Shyamalangam.
The second temple town in southern India, where Dikshitar spent a significant portion of his life as a Bhagyakara, was his birthplace Thiruvarur. Thiruvarur is a sacred site. Its worship traditions go back to the first millennium and has been graced by the presence of mystics throughout its long history. The vast temple complex and the equally vast temple tank constitute the center around which life revolves here. Thiruvarur is not just about architecture or festival traditions. The temple is rich in mysticism. The worship traditions run deep. During his stay here, Dikshitar created several compositions in praise of Tyagaraja enshrined here. Tyagaraja, the supreme renouncer, is described in many of his compositions variously as Soma Skanda, the preceptor of King Muchukunda, the one of indescribable beauty, the one who dances the Ajappa dance of bliss. To complement this composition, he captures the spirit of Tyagaraja playfully in a jig, in an easily accessible colonial tune, with lyrics pregnant with meaning and significance.
Muchukunda Varada Tyagaraja Sundara Karapadara Vinda Sarasa Mandahasa Vadana Jaya Vivo. Muchukunda Varada Tyagaraja Sundara Karapadara Vinda Sarasa Mandahasa Vadana Jaya Vivo. Mukunda Pujitangada Vala Sundara Tara Nandisha Nandita Sura Brinda Vandita Guruguha Guru. Mukunda Pujitangada Vala Sundara Tara Nandisha Nandita Sura Brinda Vandita Guruguha Guru. Muchukunda Varada Tyagaraja Sundara Karapadara Vinda Sarasa Mandahasa.
The significance of the temple doesn't stop here. The sprawling temple complex in Thiruvarur enshrines Kamalamba, on whom Dikshitar composed a set of 11 compositions, popularly known as the Kamalamba Navavarana Kritis, all in the Srividya Tantra tradition, describing concepts related to the manifestation of Devi as the universe in 9 mystical sheets or avaranas. The essence of this deity is captured in this well-known composition, the Dhyana Kriti. The essence of Kamalamba is also captured in a short Notuswara Sahitya, Kamalasana Vandita Padabje, written over the tune of a gallopede.
Kamalasana Vandita Padabje Kamaniya Karodaya Samra कामाक्षि कामेश्वर वरसति कल्याणि कमलेन्द्राणि
It is interesting to know how a tune that originated in continental Europe made its way to the United Kingdom and then to the United States. The very same tune also migrated to India, where, in the hands of Dikshitar, it transformed into Kamalasana Vandita Padabje.
Our music has been repurposed because we think of these as jolly little folk tunes that people danced to or wrote songs to. And then to find what the Indians had done with this, I was so amazed that they would be attracted to this kind of music, and it fits so perfectly.
The prosodical structure of this composition is very interesting. First of all, the word Kamala means lotus. The deity in Thiruvarur goes by the name Kamalamba. The temple tank is known as Kamalalayam. The town itself is known as Kamala Nagaram. All these facts get illustrated in the composition, the Gallopede Kamalasana Vandita Padabje, where every line begins with the syllables Kama. And the lyrics look like they were actually meant for this composition.
The town of Thiruvarur is surrounded by several other temple towns such as Gardathiram or Kurikkarai, Mayuram or Mayiladurai, Kivalur, Madhyarjunam or Thiruvidai Marudur, Kudandai or Kumbhakonam, Panchanadishwaram or Thiruvayyar. Dikshitar visited all these places and more and created compositions in praise of deities enshrined here. The next place where Dikshitar spent an extended time was Tanjavur. This historic town, the former capital of the Cholas, the greatest of the temple builders, and the erstwhile capital of the Maratha kingdom, then under the rule of the Western educated king Sarabhoji, also known as Sarfoji. Sarfoji, a polyglot, extended his patronage to educators such as the famous Tanjavur Quartet of dancers, who learned music from Muthuswami Dikshitar. Dikshitar's musical output in Tanjavur includes a large set of kritis that are of great significance. Here, Dikshitar gave life to a whole range of ragas, with compositions dedicated to various deities enshrined in the area.
Malaya Dwaja Pandya Rajatanaye.
Familial circumstances forced Dikshitar to travel southward towards Ettayapuram. En route, at the historic city of Madurai, home to the sprawling Meenakshi Somasundareswara temple complex, Dikshitar composed the classic Meenakshi Me Mudam Dehi on the presiding deity of Madurai. He complements the weighty kriti with a notiswara based on the popular Irish melody Rakes of Mallow.
मीनाक्षी त्वं सरसिज वक्त्रे पद्मे दुर्गे ततसुरवृन्दे शक्ते गुरुगुहपादिनि जलरुहचरणे सुन्दरपाण्यनन्दे माये सूरिजनाधारे सुन्दरराजसहोदरि गौरी शुभकरि सततमहम्
Mitty Matty had a hen, she laid eggs for gentlemen, sometimes 9 and sometimes 10, Mitty Matty's fine French hen.
The Rakes of Mallow. Mallow was known as a spa quite a long time ago in Ireland. Apparently it was a place for gambling and drinking and carousing. Rakes means boys who are rather bad and rather naughty, and they gamble a lot and they drink a lot and they wench a lot. So this was a song about the Rakes of Mallow.
I think it's certainly played in urban locations all over North America with Irish groups.
It's more of a rowdy tune, so a very pleasant dance.
The last phase of Dikshitar's life was spent in the company of his brother in the town of Ettayapuram near Tirunelveli. Legends ascribe miracles to the life of Dikshitar. It is said that his creation and rendition of a kriti in the raga Amrita Varshini created a torrential downpour of rain and quenched the parched lands of the area. Dikshitar lived for a span of 60 years and breathed his last in the Gregorian calendar year of 1835. It has been more than 175 years since his passing. His compositions are sung, played on instruments, and even danced to. One of his tunes has even inspired the creation of a song in Bollywood. The body dies, the Atma is eternal, Nityam. It is pure, it is of the form of knowledge, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta.
Kalpam Buddha Shuddha Nitya Nirvikalpam Sadhu Jana Chitta.
These are powerful ideas. It is sharing these ideas in a light vein in the tune of Lord MacDonald's reel, heard in Irish pubs today, that makes Dikshitar's genius stand out.
Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Satyanirvikalparishpa Panchamanandam Majam Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Satyanirvikalparishpa Panchamanandam Majam Isha Guruguha Hari Vidhi Vinutam Dehatraya Vilakshanam Lakshanam
Dikshitar's legacy is incomparable. His travels in that day and age, his creation of musical masterpieces, describing the places he visited on one hand, and the proliferation of the playful Notaswara Sahitya compositions on the other, leaves us astounded. Roughly every 12th composition of Dikshitar is based on a Western tune. There is no one else in the world of Indian music that has indulged in such cross-cultural deliberation. And even so, in the distant past, where one had to travel on bullock carts through unpaved roads, and when the printing press did not exist, how did he register these tunes in his head? And how did it even occur to him to do something like this? How did a gallopede become Kamalasana Vandita? How did a French tune heard today in Quebec transform in his hands? One can only speculate. A handful of his Notaswara Sahityas have been documented in colonial era manuscripts. Others were written down some 70 years after his death. One can only attribute their creation to the composer's spirit of innovation, a playful urge to render profound ideas in weighty kritis on one hand, and in easily accessible metric tunes on the other. What is the status of these compositions today? It is only in the past decade or so that these compositions have started making their way to kacheris. The internet, of course, has played a big role in expanding the reach of these compositions. These compositions have also provided the inspiration for the creation of notes by the 20th century Vageyakara Harikeshanallur Muttaya Bhagavatar. whose creation made its way to the popular film Tillana Mohanambal in the 1960s. There is no question that they are a great educational tool. They represent a pan-Indian legacy in the Sanskrit language. They also provide a window into the world of Dikshitar's legacy. And they speak of unlimited cross-cultural possibilities in the presence of an open mind. Here we are at the end of this journey.
I'm blown away by the existence of 39 such compositions and similar tunes created by Dikshitar. These tunes are a reminder that even during the dark days of the 1700s, where the colonization of India by the British was virtually unstoppable, the Indian spirit showed its brilliant sense of creativity, wherein the tunes that came with the colonizers transformed into something uniquely Indian and magical in the hands of Muthuswami Dikshitar, one of the foremost luminaries of Indian classical music.
श्यामले मीनाक्षी सुन्दरी स्वरसाक्षी शङ्करी गुरुगुह समुद्भवे शिवेवा श्यामले मीनाक्षी सुन्दरी स्वरसाक्षी शङ्करी गुरुगुह समुद्भवे शिवेवा
Thank you very much for the beautiful video presentation, Dr. Kanix. Once again, can you please, we'll give a big applause for that. And we now request you to kindly come onto the stage, Dr. Kanix.
So, thank you all for patiently watching the film. Question for you. Question for you all. Did you expect this story? Okay. Some of you are probably familiar with this, but the extent of Western tunes that were touched by Dikshitar. So was this the first time that you got exposed to this? Okay, yeah. So let's open up the floor for questions. Yeah, please, Raghu. Yeah. Right. Simple answer, Perumal dhaan kekkanum. So we don't know why it happened. But I'll give you a parallel though. Hi Deepthi. But I'll give you a parallel though. if you take the 11th century from, let's say, 1032 to the end of that period, the Brihadiswara temple was consecrated during that time. The Lingaraja temple was built around that time, and the Chandela temples, the what do you call them, the Khajuraho temples, they were also dated back to that time. So what was in the air that caused so much of temple building activities in different places that were not connected in India? Okay, so that is one thing. So we don't know what was in the air. Look at all the AI revolution and all that going on at this point in time. What are the cosmic alignments that are facilitating something like this? I have no idea. So I don't. So it's really hard to answer why there was so many things that happened. But in terms of why it happened in India, particularly why it happened in South India, I can give you the answer. The answer is that there was a lot of political unrest going on all over India, and if you go back to the 1700s, there were the Anglo. First of all, it was the dreaded what we call the Hyder Kalam. Hyder Ali, the Mysore wars, and all those things were happening, and Tanjavur was really a mess at that point in time. And then King Sarafoji came to power in the late 1700s, and there was a period of peace during that time because he was pretty much limited to the Tanjavur city area. And he gave a lot of encouragement to the arts. The famous Tanjavur quartet belonged there and all that kind of stuff. But even before that time, and there was so much of disturbance going on, musicians from all over South India kind of flocked to the fertile Kaveri belt, where there was more of a guarantee of sponsorship. They had to depend on something for living, right? They had to depend either on teaching music to others or being patronized by a Raja or something like that. So you didn't have sabhas like you do today. It was pretty much the court of the king. In fact, what is a concert of Carnatic music called? Kacheri. But what does Kacheri mean? Sorry? It's a court. Yeah. So you heard the song from the Tamil movie Gauravam, right? Paluti valatha kili padankoduthu paartha kili naan valatha pachai kili naalai varum kachekku seluma. So kacheri na means court. So what is the connection between a court and music? Music was actually performed in the court of a king. Which is why when the musicians used to say, I went to a kacheri to perform, it eventually became, I performed kacheris. So there was encouragement in the kacheris for musicians to perform, so people flocked from Andhra and other places. They migrated to the Kaveri area to get patronage and perform. So and plus the theoretical system had been developed to such a large extent. Venkatamakhi was a scholar that lived in the 1600s. He came up with a treatise called Chatur Dandi Prakashika. So that's where he laid the framework for the 72 Raganga Ragas. And parallelly, there was another musicologist who expanded upon that, who actually refined that, I would say, to create what's called the 72 Melakarta system. His name is Govindacharya. So Tyagaraja followed the Govindacharya scheme, Muthuswami Dikshitar followed the Raganga Raga Venkatamaki scheme, and together and separately, although they were born in the same temple town of Thiruvarur, they created their own independent repertoire of music. And so we refer to that period as a golden age of Carnatic music. So I hope that kind of answers your question. So that golden age has no connection with Beethoven or Mozart or anyone, but pretty much those things also happened at a concurrent time in history. That's all. Yeah. Yes, very much. Actually, the first person to do it was his father, Ramaswamy Dikshitar. So Ramaswamy Dikshitar has created some fantastic raga malikas in which he has included ragas like Yamuna Kalyani, even Ramkali, maybe not Ramkali, but yeah, maybe Ramkali, and also Darbaru, and a lot of these, Brindavani, etc., etc. So he was somehow exposed to the northern ragas, but Dikshitar, what he did was he created a music style which resembles the northern Indian form of classical music called the Drupad. Drupad is, it's an older form of Hindustani music which is very different from Khayal. Khayal is the most common form of Hindustani music. The older one is Drupad. The older word for Drupad is Dhruva Pada. Dhruva. What is Dhruva? Yeah? Oh, okay. What is the meaning of the word Dhruva? Dhruvo Mrityu. Okay, that's another thing. So, Dhruva means fixed. Something that is fixed. So, Padam, right? Dhruva Padam. So, where the Padam is kind of fixed. You don't mess around with the Padam. You don't unnecessarily elongate words or shorten words or something like that. So, Dikshitar's compositions resemble the style of the Dhruva Pada or the Dhrupad. For one of the well-known Dhrupads is Shambho Maha Deva Shankara Trilochana Bhakti Vachana Vamadeva Tripurantaka Madana Dahana Vrashabhatvaja Garaladhara Shambho. It's in Rupakatalam, right? They call it the Chautala in Drupad. It's 12-beat cycle, which is the same as Vidamba Rupakatalam, which is 6 times 2 12-beat cycles. So there's a lot of similarity between the Drupad style and Muthuswami Dikshitar's compositional style, which was inspired by Drupad. Plus, he also used a bunch of Hindustani ragas, and when he combined this, they really sound like Drupads. And no other southern composer has done anything similar to that. The only similarity is with Swati Tirunal, who actually composed a few Drupads in the Hindi language. Like Chaliye Kunjan More is one of the well-known compositions, which actually is a Drupad, but it's sung very differently today. So, yeah. Yes? Mudalis, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct. Mm-hmm. 5 weeks, sir. The Mudalis didn't go there for 5 years. So, but anyway. Yes. Dikshitar spent 5 years there. Right. The Mudalis took him to Manali. Yeah. Manali is where they lived. No, they did not take him to. It is possible that some of them may have gone to Banaras, but they did not take him to Banaras. The person that took him to Banaras was Chidambaranatha Yogi, his teacher. Yeah. He passed away there. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And not in Banaras. Even before he went to Banaras, he was initiated into Sri Vidya in Manali itself. And that was done by Chidambaranatha Yogi. Yeah. No, he was initiated before, but he did the Sri Vidya sadhana in Banaras. Now, Muthuswami Dikshitar's guru is Chidambaranatha Yogi, and one of the biggest stars of the Sri Vidya Tantra is Bhaskara Raya, who lived in a place called Bhaskara Rayapuram in Tanjavur. All thanks to the patronage of the Maratha rulers. See, if it were not for the Maratha rulers, Tamil culture will not be the same. The music culture of today will not be the same. So the older rulers like Pratapa-Simha, Amarasimha, and the older Saraboji, they are all patron, even the Harikatha, not just Harikatha, also the Radha Kalyanam that we do these days, that we take for granted. The Nama Sankirtanam, they all, Sambar that we drink, it all came to the Maratha section. So on the Samayatala, the Bhaskara Rayapuram was actually an endowment given by the Tanjavur kings or the Nayak kings to Bhaskara Raya, who was the greatest exponent of Sri Vidya. In fact, he wrote treatises on the Sri Vidya tradition. Now, he was initiated into Sri Vidya by a Shukla Brahmin from Gujarat, somewhere in North India during his travels. So Sri Vidya is not isolated to Tamil Nadu. The whole idea of Shakta worship is very prominent in Assam, in Bengal, and a lot of other places. In Andhra also, in Maharashtra, thanks to that Dattatreya and other people. So the Srividya Parampara exists in many different forms in many different parts of India. It gained prominence thanks to Bhaskara Raya and the tradition that he left behind in Tamil Nadu. And it was really taken over by Dikshitar. And the beauty of Dikshitar is that this is a very complex tradition, and unless you are initiated into it, and unless you're trained, you don't really have the thing to the authority, the adhikaram to perform the pujas. It's a pretty complex ritual. That's the Sri Chakra, which has 9 layers. You start from the outermost and go deeper and deeper inside. But what Dikshitar did was, in order to facilitate the general humanity to get the phalan of performing the Navavarna Puja, he created a set of 9 Navavarna Kritis that you can learn from a qualified guru. You don't need to be initiated into the Srividya tradition to learn the Navavarna Kritis. And by singing all the Navavarna Kritis with the proper mental discipline, you actually get the same phalam of performing the Navavarna Puja. So that is one of the biggest contributions of Muthuswami Dikshitar. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Hmm. Correct. A lot of innovation happens in some spaces, right? If you go to top universities and all that, there's a lot of people that there's a confluence of minds, and those things facilitate further development and further lights to go on. But the thing to note is that there's no way that Tyagaraja knew about Beethoven, or probably he didn't even care. Okay, and it's not the era of today. Like they didn't have WhatsApp at that point in time. They didn't have constant shares, no reels saying what's happening in Europe. Like today, when Sura Samharam happens in Amsterdam, we hear about it here today. Or some things like that, So they did not have that. But there was just some independent creative process happening in different places that really went off. And to tell you the truth, Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Syama Sastri never met together. There was no confluence of minds. They lived in the same area. Their paths crossed. They didn't have any common students. But Syama Sastri and Tyagaraja did have some common students, I believe. And then Dikshitar has probably completed a composition that was started by his father, along with with a little bit of collaboration with Syama Sastri and all that kind of stuff. But those are all far and few in between. The bulk of it was, these geniuses lived during that time. They had a life without distraction. They created what they created. They were born in the same town, that's all. They lived out, Dikshitar, if you watched the movie and got what it said, he didn't live in one place. He traveled quite a bit. He spent quite a bit of time in Tiruvarur. He spent about 5-6 years in Tanjavur. He spent 5 years in Kanchipuram. He spent 5 years in Banaras. So what I've done in my book is I've classified his life into 6 hubs. Just like you have airline hubs, like Cincinnati was a Delta hub. Now we lost the hub to Detroit and to Atlanta. Pittsburgh used to be a US Air hub. US Air doesn't exist anymore. So Dikshitar wrote a life has split his life into 6 hubs from which all his travels can be explained. The first hub is his birthplace, Tiruvarur, where he spent his midlife also. Second hub is Manali, where he lived thanks to the patronage of the Mudalis. The third hub is Banaras, where he attained, he did his sadhana. The fourth hub is Tanjavur. Kanchipuram, where he spent 5 years of his life. That's where the deep immersion into the Upanishads happened. And the fifth hub is Tanjavur, where he taught his music to the Tanjavur quartet, who became the fathers of the modern dance tradition in Bharatanatyam today. And the final hub is Ettayapuram, where he lived with his brother, who was patronized by the Raja of Ettayapuram. The Rajas of Ettayapuram were good people in the story of Dikshitar, but the Raja of Ettayapuram was a bad man in another story. Veerapande Kattabomman. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Why did he compose all his songs in Sanskrit? Excellent question. If you were to compose music, what language would you compose in? English? Sorry? In Tamil? Okay. Yeah. The thing is, what is the language that can be related to by most languages in India? Sorry? No, what is the core language that can be related to by most languages in India? Sanskrit. Okay. For instance, take the word water. What do you say for water in Tamil? Tanni. Okay. What is that? Jalam. Okay. Jalam is also a Sanskrit word, right? So tanni. Tanni. What is the full word for tanni? Tan neer. What does tan mean? Cold. What does neer mean? Water. Okay. What does neeraja mean? Lotus. And neeraja. So one who is born from water. So what does neer mean in Sanskrit? Water. Okay. So similarly, you can find a lot of parallels. If we start taking Tamil, the words that we assume to be Tamil, they are actually, many of them are Sanskrit words. Similarly, in Malayalam, if you watch a Malayalam movie, even in a movie like Drishyam, that's a Sanskrit word. So every language has so much of Sanskrit in it. So his idea was, he was a person that showcased Indian knowledge systems. This is how I look at him. He was not just a mama musician from Tanjavur. He was a person that was deep rooted in the knowledge systems of India. And compositionally, he was trying to narrate the stories around the temples that he visited in a pan-Indian context. And what do I mean by that? So nothing was in isolation. If he sang about Ayodhya, he sang about Ayodhya as a musician from the Tanjavur area in the Carnatic idiom, but he used phrases which one described Rama from the perspective of Ramavatara, which is a pan-Indian construct, I think. If you look at the sacred geography of Ramayana, he was born in Ayodhya. He visited all these places, went all the way to Lanka and came back. So there are so many places in India which have the name Ram associated with them. Right? Recently, there have been a lot of WhatsApp forwards saying that, like Ramanathapuram, Rameshwaram, and Madurantakam, which is a place where Rama's Vimanam is said to have alighted. And you go to Nasik, then you go to Kishkinda. Kishkinda is all about the Ramayana. So there's not the huge chunk of India is connected with the Ramayana. Okay, so the pan-Indian context of it comes through in his compositions, not just about Rama, but about all other deities. Kashi in particular, Vishwanatha, Visalakshi, and so on and so forth. So he was trying to express something that was common to all of India, and he used the Sanskrit language to express that. Yeah. I've explained that in detail in the book. So if you're able to pick up the copy of the book, you'll be able to get a full idea of it. It's a long story, actually. So right from my childhood, I was exposed to the Western music of Dikshitar. I listened to, my teacher taught me 5 of these compositions. My great-grandfather used to play the fiddle, and he used to play a lot of band tunes. And some of what great-grandfather played had an intersection with what my teacher taught me, but there was a lot of non-intersecting compositions, both on the teacher's side as well as the great-grandfather's side. And plus, I'd heard these compositions played in bands in temples, like you just saw. That is the opening scene of the movie. So what I enacted in the movie was exactly what I had seen when I was like 7 years old. 1969 or so. We filmed that shot like in 2019, I think. So like 50 years later, these things are still happening. So having gotten exposed to that, I was very curious. And then over a period of time, I discovered these compositions. And my teacher, her name is Saraswati Ammal. Most of the compositions that she taught me are by Dikshitar. So that's what triggered an interest. So my thing was, how did somebody have this kind of a broad-based interest? And how did he communicate like this? How did he teach like this? And then more digging and digging and digging. That's how it went deeper and deeper. And at one point in time, I said that this story, the story of the Notiswara Sahitya, has had to be told. And I hope the fascination about it has come through in this. Let me just put it in context. If you picture yourself like the 1790s, okay, living as a villager, traditional villager, clad in a dhoti or a sari, walking around, no electricity, no radio, no internet, nothing. The concept doesn't even exist. Even the printing press did not exist at that time. You had to write on palm leaf manuscripts and so on and so forth. You lived in that kind of an era. And then suddenly, there were ships landing on the shore. Big ships, blaring. People were spilling out like termites, literally. Red-coated armies. Okay? And they were taking over the land. They carried ammunition with them. They had gunpowder. They were able to subdue the continent. So everything that you took for granted was shaken to the core. Okay? So you lived in the reality of Rajas and Ranis and all that, and Raja will patronize me, I'll go sing there, and all that. And suddenly you're walking, you're not even able to walk because people are firing, and there's a group of other people that come speaking another strange language, and apparently it's called French. And one language is called English, one is called French, and they're fighting with each other. You don't want to get caught in the crossfires. In fact, there were some temples in South India that were used as forts in the battles between the English and the French. So in that reality, the British finally secured victory, and they said, okay, we are going to launch a hoist of flags all over the land. And they hoisted the Union Jack. And whenever they hoisted the Union Jack, what would they sing? God save the king. Okay? So imagine this, the audacity actually. So the colonizers come to the land, and they come from a little island in the Atlantic Ocean. And they come and subdue a 5,000-year-old civilization. And they hoist a flag. And when they hoist the flag, they ask the natives to sing a song imploring God to save the king of the little island from which they came. Okay? So what does Dikshitar do? Maybe somebody asks him to write Sanskrit lyrics to this tune, or I don't know, we don't know why he did it. But when he did it, I don't know if he understood the meaning of what he heard. But looks like he might have, because God save the king. Save in Sanskrit becomes pahi, protect. God save the king. Instead he says santatam pahi. Santatam means always. And who is the object to be saved in Dikshitar's composition? Mom. So it is not the king of a little island. It is mom, it's a self. So when 100 people sing it, they are praying to Devi to protect them. From what? I don't know. Okay. So that is how he turned it around. And not only that, he implores Devi. Again, invoking the feminine here is another form of, I would not hesitate to call it even, an expression of something indigenous. So he invokes the feminine, divine feminine, in the form of Sangeeta Shamala. Madurai Meenakshi is Shamala Devi. She is a goddess of music. Okay, there is in Adi Shankara's work, she is described as Sari Gama Pada Nirata, one who delights in the sounds of the Sa, Re, Gama, Pada, Ni, the Saptaswaras, one who plays the veena. So Sangeeta Shyamala. Then she is Sarvadhara, Adhara. What is Adhar? Adhar card? So Sarvadhara, Supratishta, and all. It comes in Lalita Sahasranam, right? So she's the basis for everything. Sarvadhare, Janani, she is the mother. Chintitartha Prade, she gives you what you desire. Then I'll skip the next word for now. Shive. She is Shiva. Sri Shiva. She is almost the last of the namas in the Lalita Sahasranama. Sri Guruguha Sevite, one who is worshipped by Guruguha, which is Murugan. Shiva Moha Kare, one who delights Shiva. And the word in between which are left out is Chid Rupini. Chid Rupini. So we talked about Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muktam Satchidananda Rupam, which is the absolute form of non-duality. Non-duality, how do you even explain it? I mean, this, if you explain it, then it is not there, because anything that is comprehensible, anything that can be objectivized is not the true reality. So you and I, we are expressions of the true reality, but are we real? This body is going to go away. Connect is going to go away. Nothing is permanent. Even the stars are not permanent. They are going to disappear into black holes at some point in time. So what is real? It is that reality which is referred to as Satchidananda, that non-dual reality, which is the absolute source of existence, which we are free to conceptualize in the form of Shiva or Vishnu or anything. So this existence is nothing other than Sat. It is nothing other than Chit. So she is Chid Rupini. So the essence of the philosophy that Dikshitar really expresses at the core, which is non-duality, comes through in his transformation of the tune of the British national anthem into something profound, a stuti in praise of Devi in the total paradigm of non-duality. So I regard Dikshitar as the first voice of decoloniality. We're back in the 1700s. So I hope this makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, please. Jennifer, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's a very, very good question. See, we recorded all these compositions back in 2007. The voice you heard is my daughter, Vidita. She is no longer 12 years old now. She's like 30 years old. So we found the right window of time to record a voice, which is why we were able to get this. So before the voice gets tainted with all the excessive gamakas that you can put in when you sing music. So prior to that, 5 of these compositions were taught as part of basic learning. So some of you may already know. Shakti Sahida Ganapatim Varasivavalam Syamale Meena. Sorry? Yes, the Ganamrita Bodhini, that's the name of the book. So it's in that book. So 5 of them pretty much well known. Maybe 2 more. But then the others were not known. But once we released this album, and once YouTube came, once these were over the internet, now a lot of people sing them. Now a lot of people teach them to beginners of Carnatic music, but they don't find expression in concerts, because how can you squeeze it in the middle of a kacheri, right? Because all performances of classical music are based on ragas. So, sorry? Varma, he sings that. Okay, actually, I really appreciate what he has done. One of the things he did was he reached out to me back in 2009, I think, or 8 or 9. He bought 50 copies of this CD, the one that what we released, and he gifted it to people. So he was really big to do something like this. So Prince Ramavarma has done this. He's the descending prince of the Travancore dynasty. Yeah. And then T.M. Krishna sings these in concerts as well. So they're not very popular. I mean, people look at them, oh, that's cute, it's nice, but it's not Carnatic music. Yeah, they teach the 5 of them actually. Yeah. But then people frown upon them. Sometimes they add gamakams. That kills it actually. Because these are meant to be plain tunes, these are Western tunes, and Dikshitar made no bones about it. He just took Western tunes and put Sanskrit words to those, that's it. They are very syllabic, they are very metric. Kritis in Carnatic music are not metric. Maru Kelara O Raghava O Rangasha. That's not metric, because the O goes for like the O goes on for like 6 beats, right? So the Mari, yeah. Yes, please.
So Dikshitar adopted the tunes and put Sanskrit words.
Correct.
Made it into a devotional song.
Yeah. I'm a youngster, so I can speak for it. Okay, what I'm saying is this, okay, first of all, creative freedom. There is nothing to stop anyone from doing what they want to do, okay? And I absolutely believe in that. It has to be honored. Because if this restriction was there, what if Dikshitar's father had told him, "Dey, ezhudadara idella, namakku edukku idella. Don't do this." What is this? That's a bar tune. You're writing songs to, you're writing abacharam and all that. You know, now we are so grateful that that did not happen, okay? And after, I always go back to the words of Balamurali Krishna, who is one of the greatest geniuses of our time. And I wrote an article in the Shruti magazine called Tradition, Classicism and Innovation in Carnatic Music. In that I have quoted Balamurali Krishna, where he has said, after all, what is tradition? Tradition is only the basic rules of grammar in music and in prosody. Anything beyond that is an innovation. And anything beyond that is an innovation. Nobody can stop anybody from innovating, and nobody should not. But if something survives the test of time, then it becomes part of the surviving tradition. So don't stop anyone, let them do what they want. If you want it, listen to it, otherwise ignore it. Sometimes it gets on our nerves. Are you psychical? But it is becoming so popular. People say that all the time. So, you know, and sometimes even some of the popular musicians of our time have been frowned upon by some of the so-called purists. It's a part of the ongoing thing. But sometimes some of these things sound obnoxious. I do totally agree. Yes, Karan, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
For the temples in India and all that. My question is about the motive of Dikshitar Swami for adopting the English or Western Irish with the lyrics from India back in the days.
Yeah.
And we discussed some of that. But I'm wondering if it's also to make it easier for people to access. And why I say this is because, like you said, like the Western music is metric based.
Yes.
It's not. If I were to learn music,
Yeah.
this is a good start for me to learn notes that are metric and easy to adopt.
Yeah.
So do you think that was maybe his motive also to have it spread to different people so they can access? And then second question is about records preserving. Because Western cultures or civilizations,
Yeah.
document a lot. And
Yes.
there's pride in that. And
Yeah.
that's why we have, films and scriptures from back in the day still existing. But I'm not sure how much in Indian subcontinent and cultures we take pride in documenting and preserving our art and culture and history. So how much of that must be lost, like even from times before Dikshitar, from like millennials and everything? And just wanted to get your idea of that.
Yeah, both are great questions. Thanks, Karan. And it's a good observation. The thing is, let's separate two things. One is his lyrical content, which was rooted in Mantra Shastra, and which brought about other elements of Jyotisha Shastra, Puranas, Itihasas, and all that to the fore, using Mantra Shabdas basically. What he did was he just transported those Mantra Shabdas onto colonial tunes. What is the objective? Yes, if young kids are able to catch these same tunes on and sing them, which we also realized very practically, because when I started teaching these compositions to children back in 2001 or 2 or something like that, when my daughter was 6 years old, that's when we started teaching music to children. They would just love to listen to these compositions. They would just love to sing them. Muchukunda varada tyagaraja sundara. It's a lot easier to sing than singing even some of these geetams in Carnatic music. Varavina, those are nice. But these had a pep to them. They could, and we used to have so much of fun. Every class used to be a riot. You have 10 kids sitting in class, they learn these compositions, then they sing, and then one kid will sing one phrase. When we play games, Muchukunda varada tyagaraja sundarakara, if you go in circles and all that, it's a lot of fun. And then there used to be games, okay? There's a song about Anjaneyam sada bhavayami. Give exercises like go around the house, count the number of Anjaneyas that you see, and all that kind of stuff. And then in which temple have you seen Anjaneya? Which book have you seen it and all? Go do your homework. And so these were great educational material, and it is possible that he may have conceived of these as educational material as well, because the tunes are accessible, and with the tunes you get the lyrics also. And there's another theory to this. I always joke about it. Like these tunes were floating around. They were probably heard in so many different places, and it's possible that his kids were singing ta 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 ta, and it's possible that some mommy in the home or tata in the house might have said, "Ennada adu ta 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 paadindu iduvela kaamachi meenachi nu paadna punniyam varum." So it is possible that Dikshitar said, "Okay, one day me," and he very quickly fitted lyrics to those, and that is how he must have done one. Then when he did one, he must have said, "Okay, why don't I do some more?" And it's possible that he did more than 39, but only these are available. That goes to the question of record keeping. Ours is an oral tradition. The Indian tradition is a very oral tradition. In fact, our scriptures are referred to as Shruti, because we listen to them. What is a Western tradition? What is a Western sacred tradition? Book, Bible, bibliography, bibliothèque, everything goes to the Bible, which is written down. So you have to write it. You need written proof for everything. In India, it's nothing like that. It just comes through generation after generation. There are many ways to preserve knowledge, like Ghanam chanting, Kramam, and a few other things, like forget all the names. You go forward, you come back, and then you go 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Ghana Padam is the final one. Aduk Munala, there are two in between. Jada Padam, yeah, Jada is there, yeah. So, and then, only this morning I was observed, where Ravi and I were talking, that we did not record history. We did not care about the impermanent people. The Indian tradition did not. People come, people go, people die. And we perform the Shraddham and everything like that, but then that was to the individual families to maintain it. But in the West was very particular about recording when somebody was born, when they died, and when they came to throne and all kind of stuff. But in India, they recorded knowledge. There's no dearth of recording knowledge at all. The sciences, astronomy, astrology, and all that, even medicine, everything was kind of recorded in scriptures. But then there's a story that I heard. There is a festival called Adi Perukku. Adi Perukku, that is the 18th day in the Ashada month in Tamil Nadu. What people do, that's the time when the monsoons are active. So the river Kaveri, which flows from Karnataka into Tamil Nadu, usually goes into spate during that time. There's currents in the river. So what people used to do was they had a tradition of making copies of the manuscripts at home. It was a duty of everyone who had manuscripts at home to keep making copies of those. And how do you make copies? You didn't have machines or anything. You had to get another manuscript, another piece of parchment. You had to write on that. Then over a period of time, the older ones, which were biodegradable, people used to take their lunch and go to the banks of the rivers and celebrate the rivers and throw the older ones, which are no longer needed, into the river. Over a period of time, what happened was the habit of making copies stopped. But the habit of going to the river and dumping old parchments did not. So that's how a lot of knowledge has been lost. Yeah. Sorry? Oh, they get the eating part too. Yes, sir. Yes. It's from the Mudgala Purana. The Mudgala Purana has the iconographic descriptions of many forms of Ganesha, and those have been commissioned into paintings, and I don't know which place they are available, but they have been there. what Dikshitar has done, he has literally reproduced the iconography of the Mudgala Purana in some of his compositions. Panchamatanga mukha ganapatina paripalitoham. So that is a Panchamukha Ganapati in Tiruvarur that he has described. The iconography comes out beautifully in that compositions, in the later part of the compositions. Then there's also this Hasti Vadanaya, that's another shloka. So that's another description of Ganapati from the Mudgala Purana that Dikshitar has described. Now, please don't confuse Soma Skanda with this. Soma Skanda is a tradition, one of the Murthams of Shiva. Shiva is worshipped in many different forms. Okay? When you go to northern India, the only form that you see are, only two forms that you see are what? Shivalingam and Nataraja is mostly in South India. Bhairava, you see Bhairava, the Kala Bhairava comes from, yeah. But in the south, actually it's a pan-Indian tradition, because if you go to Kailash and if you go to Ellora, you see Nataraja there, dancing Shiva. You see Shiva and Parvati, the Ganga Dhareshwara, and so on and so, you see Chandrasekhara. So there's many different manifestations of Shiva. I think it's 64 all in total. So one of them is Nataraja, one is Dakshinamurti. So Dakshinamurti is Shiva in the form of a guru. And then you have Soma Skanda, which is Sa, Oma, and Skanda. So that is one of the most picturesque depictions of Shiva, and it literally comes to life in the words of Adi Shankara in the Subramanya Bhujangam. So basically, Murugan is a cute kid. He's competing, his parents are competing for his attention. So that is how Adi Shankara describes him. So that is Shiva, Parvati, and Murugan in the center. So Ganesha is nowhere in the picture. Okay, so he doesn't need to be there because Ganesha is worshipped separately. He's a Mulu Mudar Kadavul, as we call him in Tamil. So so the manifestations of Ganesha are described elsewhere. So the next part of the program, yeah, please. Why? There are some things, oh my lovely baby or something like that. One padam is there. People sing that. So after the program, I'll look for it and I'll share it with you. See, there's this genre called Padam and Javali, which is basically love themes, which are sung at the end of kacheris. And there's one which has like, oh my lovely, or something like that. Sikil sings that, correct. Yeah. So I don't know why they wrote it, but you know. So it kind of sounds odd, right? See, when you fit Sanskrit into metric tunes, do you find any distortion in the language? Do you? No, there is absolutely no distortion. But if you take this song in a Tamil tune with English lyrics from a movie called Ninaitale Inikkum, which was released in 1978 or 79. What a waiting, ta, ta, ta. So, you know, do you see the distortion in English? Yeah. So why distort? Avladhan. So. Yeah, I was not aware of that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, very much. First of all, the word Mani Pravalam. When we mix two languages, it is called Mani Pravalam. My mother used to say, when kids go to convent, they come back speaking in a picture, Mani Pravalama pesardra. When they mix, so see, the Mani Pravalam is actually part of our lingo. You know, my grandmother used to say Vadaka Anachiya. My mother used to say light Anachiya. So what do we say? Light off panniya. Is there any Tamil? So light Anachiya itself is Mani Pravalam, okay? So Dikshitar has indulged in Mani Pravalam in one composition, Venkata Chalpathe, which is it's a combination of three different languages, Telugu, Sanskrit, and Tamil. Tamil was his mother tongue. Telugu was the language of the elite public in the courts. It was a court language. It was the Italian of the South, in the Maratha court. Just imagine just the nature of existence there. You know, the Maratha court, the Marathas were ruling in Tamil Nadu. The court language is Telugu. There were people, Kannada-speaking people that had come there, and there were Tamil was the natural language there. And Sarfoji was such a brilliant man that he commissioned education in schools to teach at least 5 languages to children. And today we complain of 2 language formulas and 3 language formulas and all that. So it's like they had to learn what Sanskrit, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, and one more language. I don't know what it was. Sorry? Kannada, Sanskrit was already mentioned. Sanskrit already mentioned. So something else. Huh? Malayalam, no. I think it was maybe Persian or maybe English. I don't know what. So at that time, European education was already in place. So he made sure that people were literate. People could go around. I mean, with every language is an asset, right? And when you combine all of them, you get Mani Pravala. So Abhayamba Nannu, that's another Mani Pravala composition. So I'm going to stop the questions for now because the next part of the program we had in mind was the book Anubhuti. So we are not if you're interested, you can come and talk to me at the end of the lecture today because it's a book celebrating 250 years of Dikshitar. So I've written a 400-page book on the life and music of Dikshitar. It's available on sale on Amazon and also on the publisher's website. I have a few copies with me. In the book, I've included a chapter called the Mangalam. The Mangalam is a composition that I've written in praise of Dikshitar. It's in Sanskrit. It describes it's pretty much a summary of the book. And I've taught it to a couple of children in the community here. And I'm going to invite them, Kirtana and Arya, to come on stage to sing that composition. And I will explain it line by line. So who's starting? You're starting, right?
दीक्षितेन्द्राय सच्चिदानन्दनाथाय अस्मदाचार्य गुरुगुहाय मङ्गलम् दीक्षितेन्द्राय सच्चिदानन्दनाथाय अस्मदाचार्य गुरुगुहाय मङ्गलम्.
So that was in the raga Sama. So in the Sama raga, we have a composition called Guruguha Bhaktanugrahaya. So I chose that raga and this Vibhakti, Guruguhaya Namaste, Guruguhaya Mangalam. So this is the first line of the composition. So Dikshitendraya, the king of the King Dikshitar literally, Satchidanandaya, he is nothing other than the personification of Satchidananda itself. Asmada Acharya, he's my guru. Guruguhaya Mangalam, he is Guruguha. Let's go to the next line.
Dakshinamurti Shankaracharya Sannibhaya Muthuswami Dikshitaya Nityamangalam. Dakshinamurti Shankaracharya Sannibhaya Muthuswami Dikshitaya Nityamangalam.
This is in a raga called Penadyuti, which is the second raga in the Raganga Raga scheme. So you see, Muthuswami Dikshita, we compare him to Shiva, Dakshinamurti, and also to Adi Shankara. First of all, what is a parallel between Adi Shankara and Dakshinamurti? What did both of them teach? They essentially explain the nature of truth. And how did Dakshinamurti teach? He taught everything in Maunam, silence, yeah. And Shankaracharya transcended the Maunam and traveled all over the land to explain the same truth. Then when you see the image of Dakshinamurti, how many disciples do you see sitting in front of him? 4. When you look at Adi Shankara, how many disciples were the prime disciples? 4 of them. Okay. Now I'm comparing both of them to Muthuswami Dikshitar. The 4 prime disciples of Dikshitar who lived together at the same time with Dikshitar in Tanjavur were the Tanjavur Quartet. And what is the central message of Dikshitar's compositions? The truth of existence, Advaitam, nothing else. Okay, so Dakshinamurti, Shankaracharya, Sannibhaya, and there's a kriti by Dikshitar in this ragam in praise of Dakshinamurti. Let's go to the third line.
Maya vihina shuddha jnanaikya swaprakasha nada jyotishwaraya purna mangalam. Maya vihina shuddha jnanaikya swaprakasha nada jyotishwaraya purna mangalam.
Maya Vihina Shuddha Jnanaikya Swaprakasha Nada Jyotishwaraya Purna Mangalam. So Maya Vihina, bereft of Maya, the illusion, is Shuddha Jnana Aikya Swarupa, that is Muthuswami Dikshitar, and who is nothing other than that form of existence. I visualized him in that form, Purna Mangalam to him. This is the raga Maya Malava Gaula, and the word Maya kind of alludes to that.
छायारहित दिव्य दीप ज्योति प्रभाव चमत्कार नगर गेहाय मंगलम. छायारहित दिव्य दीप ज्योति प्रभाव चमत्कार नगर गेहाय मंगलम.
Ga pa tha pa. This is a raga called Bhupalam. This Dikshitar has composed a kriti called Sadachaleshwaram. There's a line which goes Chaya Rahita Deepa. So he talks about the Deepam in the Achaleshwara temple in Tiruvarur. The temple itself being configured in such a way that there's no chaya, no shadow at all in that temple. So the way we are expressing this is that the place that abounds in knowledge, there's no shadow in ignorance. That is Tiruvarur itself. That is the home of Muthuswami Dikshitar. Chaya Rahita Divya Deepa Jyoti Prabhava Chamatkara Nagar. Chamatkara Nagar is one of the names of Tiruvarur. It is also the name of Vadnagar in Gujarat, which is the birthplace of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So, Chamatkarapura Nagara Gehaya Mangalam. Next line.
Kamalanagar Jataya Bakulavana Nivasaya Shri Kashi Sadakaya Shuddha Mangalam. Kamalanagar Jataya Bakulavana Nivasaya Shri Kashi Sadakaya Shuddha Mangalam.
कामकोटि पुण्यक्षेत्र चोलदेश व्यापकाय अष्टराजनगर देशाय मङ्गलम्. कामकोटि पुण्यक्षेत्र चोलदेश व्यापकाय अष्टराजनगर देशाय मङ्गलम्.
These two lines refer to the 6 hubs that I talked about. Kamala Nagara Jataya. He was born in Kamala Nagaram, which is Tiruvarur. Bakula Vana Nivasaya. Bakula is actually referred to the Magirampu. Magirampu is, Maram is the Thala Vriksham of Tiruvattur. Tiruvattur is where Sundaramurti Nayanar got married to Sangli Nachiyar. And Tiruvattur is very close to Manali. So I'm referring to the temple town of Tiruvattur instead of Manali in this composition. It's the second hub. And what is it? What is the third one? Shri Kashi Sadhaka. Kashi is where he performed his sadhana. Next one, what did he just sing? The first line. Kama Koti Punya Kshetra Kanchi. Chola Desha Vyapakaya includes both Tiruvarur and Tanjavur. Ashtaraja Nagara Deshaya. Ashtaraja is what? 8. You got it. Thank you. Ashta is 8. Raja is Ayyan. 8. So these are the 6 places, 6 hubs connected with this. Next slide.
Yoga Bhakta Mantra Yantra Tanta Jnana Vritti Yukta Nada Marga Darshakaya Divya Mangalam. Yoga Bhakta Mantra Yantra Tanta Jnana Vritti Yukta Nada Marga Darshakaya Divya Mangalam.
Yoga, Bhakta, Mantra, Yantra, Tantra, Jnana, Vritti. all these integrated into Nada Margam. So he used the Nada Margam, the form of Nada, to convey the essence of all these knowledge systems. Then what else was something that is conveyed with his lyrics? The next line will say that. Sri Gana.
श्रीगानपत्य वैष्णव शाक्त शैव शौर्य स्कान्द षण्मतोपाशकाय मङ्गलम्
Sri Ganapatya Vaishnava Saiva Saurya Skanda Shanmato Pashakaya Mangalam. Some of you must have already gotten the meaning of this line. Sri Ganapatya Vaishnava Shakta Saiva Saurya Skanda Shanmato Pasakaya Mangalam. So basically he was an upasaka of all the 6 religions which constitute the Shanmatas. Okay, next line.
विलम्बकाल ध्रुवपदस्य गम्भीरयानतुल्य दिव्यकीर्तनानि विरचिताय मङ्गलम् विलम्बकाल ध्रुवपदस्य गम्भीरयानतुल्य दिव्यकीर्तनानि विरचिताय मङ्गलम्.
Good. So, Vilamba Kala Dhruva Padasya. So, we just talked about Dhruva Pada. What is Dhruva Pada? Dhrupad. Yes, the Hindustani music form. So, Vilamba Kala, slow. Vilamba Kala Dhruva Padasya, Gambhira Yana Tulya. Gambhira walk, the majestic walk of the Dhrupad compositions, resembling those Divya Kirtanani Virachitaya Mangalam. He composed a lot of beautiful compositions resembling the majestic walk of the gate of the Dhrupad compositions. And this line was set to the raga Hamir. Because there is there's a composition of Dikshitar in this raga which goes Parimalaranga Natham Pajehom. It's a beautiful composition. Let's do the next line.
विकम्पगीतकीर्तनेषु नव्यमार्गशोधकाय नित्यशुद्धबुद्धजीवमुक्तमङ्गलम् विकम्पगीतकीर्तनेषु नव्यमार्गशोधकाय नित्यशुद्धबुद्धजीवमुक्तमङ्गलम्
Nityashuddha-buddha-jiva-mukta-mangal. What does that strike you? If you remember the line from the movie, Nityam Shuddham Buddham Muttam. So this is Vikampa without Gamakam. Vikampa, Kampam is what? What does Kampam mean? Shake. Bhukampam, earthquake, right? So Kampam, Vikampa, without any shake, without any Gamakam. Vikampa, Gita Kirtaneshu, Navyamarga Shodhakaya, one who innovated in a new path. And he is nothing other than Nitya Shuddha Buddha Jivasa Jivan Mukta. Jiva Mukta Mangalam. Okay, next line.
रागमुद्र प्रास सुस्वराक्षरादि शब्द चित्र युक्त वागेयकारकाय मङ्गलम् रागमुद्र प्रास सुस्वराक्षरादि शब्द चित्र युक्त वागेयकारकाय मङ्गलम्.
Yeah. Raga Mudra. The name of the raga is seen in all his compositions, most of them. Prasa, alliteration, the concordance between the second syllable, what we call a. Prasa, Suswara, Aksharadi, Swara, where the swara, the text are the same. Shabda Chitra, which is basically painting on text, the vibhaktis and so on and so forth. Yukta, combined all this, which features all this, text that features all this, Geyam, Vag and Geyam, Kara, Vage Kara, Karaya Mangalam, who incorporated all these features into his compositions. Next line.
रागांग संप्रदाय पोषकाय सुप्रसिद्ध वैनिकाय गायकाय विजय मंगलम
Raganga Sampradaya Poshakaya Suprasiddha Vainikaya Gayakaya Vijaya Mangalam. This is a raga called Rasa Manjari. Okay, Rasa Manjari is the 72nd Raganga Raga. What does the name Rasa Manjari sound like? Asamanjam, right? But it's nothing to do with that. Rasa Manjari. Shingara Rasa Manjari is the name of one of the compositions that he had written. That is Raganga number 72. So Raganga Sampradaya Poshakaya. So he gave life to the Raganga Sampradaya. Suprasiddha Vainikaya. He was beyond excellence. Vainikaya. Gaya Kaya Vijaya Mangalam.
अनेक शिष्य जन समूह बृंदावनाय कारुण्य सागराय च सिद्धाय मंगलम् अनेक शिष्य जन समूह बृंदावनाय कारुण्य सागराय च सिद्धाय मंगलम्.
Sishya Jana Samooha. So he was surrounded by Sishyas from various communities. People from the Devadasi community, people from the Melam community. So he did not discriminate on the basis of anything. Whoever wanted to learn, he taught them. So Aneka Sishya Jana Samooha, and that was pretty forward thinking at the point in time. But it actually jibes with what people like Dharampal have written about the state of education in pre-colonial India before the British made whatever they did out of the whole thing. So that they have said that the educational congregations in villages included people from all communities, all varnas and all that kind of stuff. So I've written more about that in the book. Aneka Sishya Jana Samooha Brindavanaya, by groups of them. One, he actually took care of all of them. And there are stories related to that too. The raga is Brindavani. Karunya Sagara. And there is, I explain why he was a Sagara of Karuna in the book. And he was also a Siddha. He is associated with some powers, which we'll see in the next line.
Shri Kamachi Kataksha Patra Bhutaya Sadhya Salila Vrishti Varshakaya Mangalam. Shri Kamakshi Kataksha Patra Bhutaya Sadhya Salila Vrishti Varshakaya Mangalam.
Good. What is Salil? Salila. Salilam. Water. Yeah. Salil is water. Vrishti means what? Mare. Amma. Salila Vrishti. Varshakaya. He brought the rains down. What does Sadhya mean? Not Onam Sadhya. Sadhya. Quickly. Yeah. Sadhya Salila Vrishti. Sadhya Suvrishti He Tavetvam. That's how he sings in Amrita Varshni. Yeah. This raga is Amrita Varshni. So he was blessed with the Kataksha of Devi. Sri Kamakshi Kataksha Patra Bhutaya. And what did he do with that? Sadhya Salila Vrishti Varshakaya Mangalam. Next, last two ragas.
क्षेत्राटनकृताय क्षेत्रकोटिदर्शकाय क्षेत्रज्ञ क्षेत्रज्ञाताय मङ्गलम् क्षेत्राटनकृताय क्षेत्रकोटिदर्शकाय क्षेत्रज्ञ क्षेत्रज्ञाताय मङ्गलम्.
Sabash, very good. Kshetratana Kritaya, one who traveled widely. Kshetra Koti Darshakaya, one who had darshan in many kshetras. The next two are Kshetrajna Kshetra Jnataya. What do we mean by this? Yes, who said that? Yes. What does it say in the Gita? Exactly, yes. One who was clear about his fundas, what the kshetra is and who the kshetrajna is. Yeah, kshetrajna kshetrajnataya mangalam. So, I mean, his distinctions are clear. Our doubt what is real, what is not real. So, that is what we acknowledge in this line. And final line, you can sing together.
Brahma Sutra Gita Vedanta Tattva Jnana Dhanaya दासविदितगुरुगुहाय सर्वमङ्गलम् ब्रह्मसूत्रगीतवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञानदानाय दासविदितगुरुगुहाय सर्वमङ्गलम्.
So Brahma Sutra, Gita, Vedanta. These are what we refer to these three as what? Prasthana? Prasthana. Yeah. This is the source of wisdom basically, source of knowledge, all knowledge. So he basically, ultimate knowledge is what? Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. So what is that jnanam? It's only the jnanam of the self. And the jnanam of the self, the ultimate source for all this is these three, no matter how you interpret them, depending on the tradition that you come from, whether it's Advaita Vedanta or whether it's Visishta Advaita or whether it's Dvaita. Ultimately, you go back to these three. So, so he distilled the essence of these in his terse sutras, Advaitic sutras, which are interspersed as a part of the other sutras which make up his compositions. Tattva, Jnana, Danaya, when he gave this knowledge, Dasa Vidita, one who is known to his dasas. And incidentally, Vidita is the mudra that I use for my compositions, and Vidita is the name of my first daughter, Vidita. So, Dasa Vidita Guruguhaya, all Mangalam to him. Sarva Mangalam, Guruguhaya Mangalam, Guruguhaya Mangalam, Mangalam. So that's the composition. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, we can address them. We can go for as long as you wish. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes. Oh yeah, children. Do you guys want to sing the whole song together? I'll sing with you also. Yeah, just complete. Yeah, we can do that. In the meantime, any other questions, anyone? About Dikshitar, about anything? Yeah. 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 Yes. That's a very good question. Tyagaraja had a very strong Sishya Parampara who were actually able to take his music out. And plus, they were very popular. They were very kind of catchy. And they were more easily accessible. And that the availability, the Sishya Parampara's devotion to propagating them. Whereas in Dikshitar's family, it was a lot more secretive. So they were Sishya Paramparas here and there, but they were kind of scattered because he traveled so much. He was not in one place, right? So they didn't spread much. Only in the 1900s that the interest started breaking out. And then again, his compositions are about Jnanam, right? So, ரொம்ப serious. So, sorry? Yeah, no, in a way, actually, I find Dikshitar's compositions easier to learn. Yeah, because the singing technique, it's like Adam Marukela Ragava Va Marukela Ragava Marukela Ragava. So a lot of the rolling around the voice is needed, but for Dikshitar's compositions, the most important ornamentation is the gamakam. So it's like not the Shankaram Abhirami Mano Haram Shashidharam Amrita Ghateshwaram. So the Kuril Nedil, what we say in Tamil, the Kuril Nedil rules are followed, the Hrasva and Dirgha. The Dirgha syllables are only for like 2 matras in Dikshitar. So the syllables, you don't even have to distort them, you don't have to extend them like oh, and there's nothing like that. So to me, I personally find that easier for learning. But then again, these are very serious material. It's not like the emotions. Oh, Rama, you did not take care of me. What will I do with you? What will I do without you, Rama? And the Mari. So that kind of subject matter, and those are relatable at a very personal, sentimental. Ye mani poka tutura Ramani. How will I celebrate you? How na eppadi unna pugalven? And the Mari. Things like that. So you don't see that in Dikshitar at all. Yeah, he went to Tirupati. First of all, his father went to Tirupati before he did. His father went to Tirupati when Dikshitar was sitting in Kashi, and he took his younger brothers with him. So at that point in time, Dikshitar's younger brother was losing his eyesight. So he sings a song to Venkatachalapati praying for the restoration of his eyesight. So according to the story, it doesn't say clearly that of the kind of relief that he got, but he must have got some relief. So when is your daya going to come? That is what Ramaswamy Dikshitar sings to Venkatachalapati in Telugu. Then when Dikshitar comes back to Manali, he goes to Tirutani and gets initiated into singing by the yogi of the mountain. Tiruthaniyil uditharulum muruthan malai viruthan. The old man of Tirutani. He's the one that comes and puts a drop of candy in his mouth. So he starts singing. Then he goes to Kanchipuram and settles down for 5 years, and during the time he goes to different places. One of the places he visits is Tirupati. Tirupati he creates his kriti called Sesha Chalanayakam Bhajamyaham. And there is Purna Chandra, no, there is another one. Sorry? No, Venkatachalapati is composed in a place called Pulivalam in near Mayavaram. So there is another composition. It's in the Raga Purna Chandrika. That's also on Venkatachalapati that he composes in Tirupati. So these are the two compositions he creates there. There's also one in Surutti. Sri Venkatagirishamalokaye. That's also in Pulivalam. It's not in Tirupati. Then from Tirupati he goes to Sri Kalahasti, where he composes Sri Kalahasti Shashrita Janavana Samira Adhara Mam Pahi Raja Maule. Yeah. Sorry? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, there's stories that have come down the Karna Parampari that his family was suffering from poverty, and that one day things were so bad that one of his students, Kamalam, from the Devadasi community, came and told Mami, the Dikshitar's wife, okay, why don't you go pledge my jewels and get some money? But Dikshitar heard that and said, no, I will not let my student pledge her jewels. Lakshmi will take care of me. So he composed a kriti, Hiranmayim Lakshmim Sada Bhajami, Hina Manava Ashrayam Tyajami, which means I will not go after a human support. But this is not substantiated by written history, the biography written by his nephew. And also when you look at his life, it looks like he was rewarded with patronage every now and then, not patronage by Rajas as per se. He was surrounded by students, we don't know if they paid him or not. But then Kanaka Vrishti, his father was amply rewarded with gold by his patrons. And there is a record of the Maharaja of Tanjavur rewarding him with gold and also with the Navaratna Mala when he created compositions, during the Arangetram of the Tanjavur quartet. And in Ettayapuram, he was rewarded with a shower of gold. So given all that, I don't know how to place his poverty. But the Kanakadhara Stotram, the reflection of that is seen in his compositions on Mahalakshmi. And all that has been dealt with in detail in the book. Yeah. Is it ready to sing?
Guruguhaya Mangalam Dikshitar
नित्यानन्दाय नित्यमङ्गलम् मायाविहीनशुद्धज्ञानैक्यस्वप्रकाशनाथज्योतीश्वराय पूर्णमङ्गलम् मायाविहीनशुद्धज्ञानैक्यस्वप्रकाशनाथज्योतीश्वराय पूर्णमङ्गलम् छायारहितदिव्यदीपज्योतिप्रभावचमत्कारनगरगेहाय मङ्गलम् छायारहितदिव्यदीपज्योतिप्रभावचमत्कारनगरगेहाय मङ्गलम् कमलनगरजाताय बकुलवननिवासाय श्रीकाशीसाधकाय शुद्धमङ्गलम् कमलनगरजाताय बकुलवननिवासाय श्रीकाशीसाधकाय शुद्धमङ्गलम् कामकोटिपुण्यक्षेत्रचोलदेशव्यापकाय अष्टराजनगरदेशाय मङ्गलम् कामकोटिपुण्यक्षेत्रचोलदेशव्यापकाय अष्टराजनगरदेशाय मङ्गलम् योगभक्तमन्त्रयन्त्रतन्त्रज्ञानवृत्तियुक्तनादमार्गदर्शकाय दिव्यमङ्गलम् योगभक्तमन्त्रयन्त्रतन्त्रज्ञानवृत्तियुक्तनादमार्गदर्शकाय दिव्यमङ्गलम् श्रीगानपत्यवैष्णव शाक्तशैव शौर्यस्कान्दषण्मतोपासकाय मङ्गलम् श्रीगानपत्यवैष्णव शाक्तशैव शौर्यस्कान्दषण्मतोपासकाय मङ्गलम् विलम्बकालध्रुवपदस्य गम्भीरयान तुल्य दिव्यकीर्तनानि विरचिताय मङ्गलम् विलम्बकालध्रुवपदस्य गम्भीरयान तुल्य दिव्यकीर्तनानि विरचिताय मङ्गलम् कम्पगीतकीर्तनेषु नव्यमार्गशोधकाय नित्यशुद्धबुद्धजीवमुक्तमङ्गलम् विकम्पगीतकीर्तनेषु नव्यमार्गशोधकाय नित्यशुद्धबुद्धजीवमुक्तमङ्गलम् रागमुद्रप्राससुस्वराक्षरादिशब्दचित्रयुक्तवागेयकारकाय मङ्गलम् रागमुद्रप्राससुस्वराक्षरादिशब्दचित्रयुक्तवागेयकारकाय मङ्गलम् रागाङ्गसम्प्रदाय पोषकाय सुप्रसिद्ध वैनिकाय गायकाय विजयमङ्गलम् रागाङ्गसम्प्रदाय पोषकाय सुप्रसिद्ध वैनिकाय गायकाय विजयमङ्गलम् शिष्यजनसमूह बृन्दावनाय कारुण्यसागराय च सिद्धाय मङ्गलम् अनेक शिष्यजनसमूह बृन्दावनाय कारुण्यसागराय च सिद्धाय मङ्गलम् श्री कामाक्षी कटाक्षपात्रभूताय सद्यसलिलवृष्टिवर्षकाय मङ्गलम् श्री कामाक्षी कटाक्षपात्रभूताय सद्यसलिलवृष्टिवर्षकाय मङ्गलम् क्षेत्राटताय क्षेत्रकोटिदर्शकाय क्षेत्रज्ञाताय मङ्गलम् क्षेत्राटनकृताय क्षेत्रकोटिदर्शकाय क्षेत्रज्ञाताय मङ्गलम् ब्रह्मसूत्रगीतते
Special thanks to Kirtana and Aryaman. With your busy schedule at school and everything, you took some time for learning all this, and that too in short span of time. Thank you very much. Okay, we would like to invite SV Temple Trustee Shri and Srimati and Shri Vasudevan Garu and Srimati Lakshmi to honor Mr. Dr. Kanix with the shawl.
Thank you all. Such a joy to be here. I'll be around. Please stay on. Thanks for your patience.
Srimati Madhavi is going to give a vote of thanks.
Namaskaram to everyone. It has been a great experience for all of us to go through this explanatory journey to learn about Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar, Trinity of Carnatic Music, a great composer, and it was a wonderful to know about the Western tunes in his works. Thank you, Dr. Kanikeshwaran, for this program. And on behalf of all the Carnatic lovers, on behalf of SV Temple, and on behalf of SV Temple Management, Board of Directors, Executive Committee, and Education Committee, we are all thankful to Dr. Kanikeshwaran for his visit and speech. Special thanks to Publications Chair for his support to publicize and live stream this event, Carl Greenlee for the audio support and tech support, Mahila Chair for the food support, and my sincere thanks and namaskarams to all the devotees and volunteers and who has been supporting all our activities. Thanks to Kirtana and Aryaman who learned the song within a week. Great job. And finally, I bow in reverence of Sri Venkateshwara, Sri Padmavati, Andal Goda Devi in giving us an opportunity to serve all the devotees. Namaskar.
You can come onto the stage, whoever wants to take picture, like we'll take a group picture.
Who all wants to take a group picture, please come upstairs.